Top 10 MLB postseason pitching records in a single postseason. Number 5, games played, Paul Assenmacher. 1997 Indians are one of my favorite teams, actually, to look at. They had everything going for them. I feel like they should have won that World Series. 95, I can see why they lost it. The Braves were just a better, just they were ready. They'd been there before. Cleveland was, in a way they were youthful, they were young, but and they were entertaining. But either way, this was a '97 Indians team that I really believe this is the team that should win. This is the team that's gonna win. And it was shocking to me that Florida was able to pull it out in seven. Craig Counsell's, bottom of the ninth hit. They win the World Series from that. But I mean, just a lot of it was one of the best World Series I watched. Not me personally, but I did watch it on ESPN Classic. I've also watched it on just YouTube wise. There are ways for me to watch it, and yeah, it was definitely out of all the World Series, definitely that's one of the top 10 World Series of all time that I've watched for sure so far. But this is an Indians team that totally deserved um, to win, and the fact that they didn't it's sad. It really is sad. I mean, just looking at what he did, it's impressive what he did. Actually, the numbers that he got. This is why he's number 5. He was able to play in 14 games in a single postseason. In that 97 postseason, he played in 14 games. So he was relied on a lot, and that's impressive for sure. Pitching wise, for sure too. He was needed in New York. They beat New York. Um, didn't have the best ERA for sure in the LDS or the LCS, New York and Baltimore. But when he got to the World Series, when he played those 5 games there, he was almost usually pretty untouchable. He had a 0 ERA. He was able to really be a great reliever, and overall, I mean, he deserves this honor to be on this list. Um, Again, a team that should have won did not. Florida was definitely not a better team than Cleveland, but it happened, and history, unfortunately, is not kind to Cleveland. But other than that, Paul Assenmacher deserves to be on this list. Number 4, innings pitched, Madison Bumgarner. The 2014 postseason was a magical ride for Madison Bumgarner and the Giants. No one expected them to get to the World Series. They did at the same time. They didn't. Again, magic has happened every 2 years. They've done this. So we'll see what happens here this year. We'll see if Giants can win the World Series again every 2 years. It seems like that's a thing. It's always an even number for them. But what can I say? Madison Bumgarner was relied on, and he came in the clutch. Pretty much, they needed him to go in and pitch a great game in that wild card game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. What did he do? He shut them down. Literally, he gave up nothing, and it was incredible to see how magical that pitching that night he was. He was just perfect. He was on everything, and then he goes to the NLDS versus the Washington Nationals. Still, he shuts them down pretty quick. They get past the Nationals, which at that time was I think they were the best team in baseball. Actually, I'm not sure if they were or not, but they actually had a pretty decent record, and they beat them out of there. And then it was St. Louis, and St. Louis is one of those teams that always is going to be in the mix for the World Series, for championships. And he shut them down. And then once they got to the Kansas City Royals, they needed 2 good starts from him. He played in 3 games as a reliever, the third one, but 2 starts, right, out of the 7 games that they played, and he delivered everything he had. He shut them down. They could not do anything. And the Royals, which were trying to seek their first title that year, they eventually did get it, this past year in 2015. But still, they could not manage anything against this guy. No one could hit against this guy the entire postseason. He had a spectacular run in 2014. The fact that he had 52.2 innings pitched there, that was crazy. That was nuts. The fact that he had an ERA of all the series combined, you're looking at it, not all the series combined, but you're looking at it, the wild card game, he had a 0. The NLDS, he had an average of 2.57. The ALCS, he had an average of a 1.72 and then an ERA of 0.43 in the World Series. And just having to pitch so many innings, 9 innings on the wild card, 7 for the NLDS, 15.2 in the NLCS, 21 innings in the World Series, and having the strikeouts 10, 6, 12, 17. Overall, he was dominant. No one can touch him. And yeah, Madison Bumgarner for sure. Number 3, shutouts, Christie Mathewson. We're going way back right now. 1905. Pretty much there was no postseason. There wasn't like long postseasons like there are now. So the only thing that was recorded is the World Series. I'm pretty sure that's the only thing they played was the World Series. And he was pitching for the Giants. His obviously the opponent was the Philadelphia Athletics at the time. Um, and this was the World Series, the biggest series of them all. This is where you want to win a title, and Christie Mathewson brought it. He had 3 shutouts. This is why he's in the record book for number 3, is because shutouts, 3 of them, and all of them were because of his starts. He had 3 starts, 3 games played, right? 3-0. So he won every single game with a 0 ERA, gave up nothing at all. 13 hits, that was all, and a walk. 18 strikeouts, 27 innings pitched, and a .519 whip. Overall, gave up nothing. No earned runs, no home runs, nothing. He was perfect. Every time they needed him to pitch, he pitched out, and he pitched great. And 3 complete games as well. He pitched all of them complete. They were all complete, and that's the thing that's very impressive. 9 innings for those 3 starts there, straight on. No one can touch him. And you hear Madison Bumgarner, that great performance. Well, this is one performance that I think is sensational, just because of how he had to make sure he had to bring it. This is the World Series. This is the biggest thing ever, really. This is what's gonna make or break you. And Christie Mathewson, the reason why he's in the Hall of Fame is just he showed it. He's a great pitcher. He's one of the best pitchers of all time. And you got to give up to this guy for getting this record. I think it's gonna be hard to not to break the shutout, but to have that type of consistent pitching in the postseason. For sure, deserves it. Number 2, whip, Mariano Rivera. This is the best closer of all time. There's no question about that. No point to debate about this right now. All I am saying is, yes, he is 2. That's all I'm going to talk about is his whip, and that made him number 2 on this list. And his whip in the 2003 postseason was a combined .438 whip. That that is insane. Just pretty much, it's stating that he barely gets any walks and he barely gets any hits from the opponent, and that's pretty much saying he is unstoppable, and that's why he's a closer, because he can shut it down really fast, real quick. And you saw what he did in 2003 postseason. He shut down Minnesota in the 2 games that he got to play, a 0 ERA, 4 innings pitched, got 2 saves out of it, and he had 4 strikeouts. When he was versus Boston, he got a win. Actually, he went 1-0, but he did play in 4 games. He got those 2 saves, those 8 innings pitched, and 6 strikeouts, and 1.113 ERA. And then the World Series, the unfortunate thing about it is that they did lose the World Series in '03. But honestly, what he did in the World Series there was still equally as great. 2 games played, and the 2 games he had a save, 4 innings pitched, 4 strikeouts, 0 ERA. Just Josh Beckett and them, they just shut him down. What can I say? There's nothing else I can say, but they got shut down by that pitching, and just it was like Florida's turn in a way to win that title that year. Either way, that doesn't diminish what Mariano did. And you just look at what is most important is his whip. That's why he's in the countdown. 0 was his whip against Minnesota. .625 was his whip against Boston. .500 was his whip against Florida. Overall, he just doesn't give walks or hits, and he was a monster. He was a monster throughout the entire postseason. That's why his numbers are there. He's got a lot of postseason records that are on my list. Actually, that's just impressive. for me to just look at. But yeah, you have to put Mariano Rivera in this list, and come shy of number one. But man, that's pretty darn close to being number one. That's such a good record to have, and I don't think any reliever will break that low ERA, that low WHIP ever again, in my opinion. So number one, complete games. Deacon Phillip. He's a pitcher for the Pirates. They were in the first ever World Series. At that time, it was the Pittsburgh Pirates, or I think it is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yes, Pittsburgh Pirates against the Boston Red Sox in the 1903 World Series. Um, what can I say other than I totally understand this whole notion of 1903. It's kind of dumb. You're putting him first. Mo should possibly be first. The reason I'm gonna put complete games in there as number one is because it's really pretty damn hard to just pitch throughout, just a complete game. Even if, mistakes are bound to happen. He obviously got in earned runs. He got runs in there, but he completed every game that he needed to start, and that's something that's very hard. That sometimes pitchers just get off and they can't focus anymore, and they need to be need to be replaced by a reliever. And what did Deacon Phillip do is he just pushed through and he completed his games. And that's why I feel like he deserves to be on this because partially it wasn't the best numbers, but again it wasn't the worst. I think he tried to make a name for himself. I think he really did a good job in the series. Honestly, like overall he did a pretty good job. And you're just looking at what he did at 3-2 record with the 5 games started, with the 5 games played, a 3.07 ERA, which isn't too bad for 5 starts. 44 innings pitched, 22 strikeouts, a .932 WHIP. Again, not the best numbers because he allowed 15 earned runs, 19 runs were scored, 3 walks, 38 hits. But 5 complete games to me is very difficult, and especially in the biggest stage of your life, just because there's so much expected out of you. If you make some errors, it's hard to really come back from him. But he was a warrior, and he was gonna finish. And to me, um, I really do feel like Deacon Phillip deserves that recognition for what he did in the 1903 World Series, and you know he deserves to be number one in my books.